I think it's safe to say that a majority of people on this channel absolutely love cinema. There is something about being so overwhelmed by the transportive nature of film where momentarily it has the ability to make you reflect, introspect and empathize with total strangers who you have just become accustomed to a few minutes ago. I think there are memories that forever stay with me. Times in the movie theater where I have sat in deep contemplation just spellbound on what I witnessed in theaters. Or I found myself sitting in the theater as the end credits just rolled, genuinely in awe of the fact that artists were capable of pulling off something so special and so immersive. I remember exactly where I was when I saw Troy for the first time. I remember being awestruck, just enamored looking at the frames of Fellowship of the Ring, or the sheer shock I experienced of the several twists and turns of The Departed. You never forget such moments, and through this video, I wanted to speak about these exact moments where I felt this visceral feeling like I was watching something special, inadvertently exclaiming, "This is cinema," something that is truly rare to find as we watch movies week in and week out. I would love to know your picks from Indian cinema where you were genuinely at a loss for words. So here is Tried&Refused Productions with 10 "This is cinema" moments in Indian movies. Bajrangi Bhaijaan. When I think about the bittersweet quote of "I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them," I think about the special performance of Salman Khan as Pavan from Bajrangi Bhaijaan. An earnestness and dedication to the role that just seems like a distant memory with the star today. The heartfelt film, directed by Kabir Khan and written by Vijayendra Prasad, possibly presented one of the most pure and beautiful relationships between Pavan and Shahida. I still believe it in Indian cinema has probably the most beautifully constructed climax sequence that unanimously made audiences weep in theaters. Even though Salman Khan in retrospect feels that a more impactful decision would have been if Pavan actually saw Shahida reunite with her family versus being split apart, but I think the closure of actually Shahida finding her voice hits harder because there was for a moment where audiences felt like Pavan would depart without saying goodbye. The feeling that there was a possibility of Pavan having gone through hell and back for this little girl and leaving without getting to say goodbye was beautifully designed in the screenplay. Only for Shahida's voice to be heard, for it to echo as she screamed "Mama" and chanted "Jai Shri Ram." I think I genuinely have to place the structure of this climax as one of the best moments from Indian cinema in the last few years. You only sparingly get such an overwhelming rush of feelings, and the end of Bajrangi Bhaijaan will forever remain with me as something extremely earnest and beautiful. Meiyazhagan. A lot of what's important to accept when it comes to this inexplainable feeling is that it doesn't really have anything to do with scale. It is to do with a combination of several technical elements working in seamless cohesion with each other and artistic magic that I believe cannot be always engineered. When you design a scene that is extremely emotional, one can't control the outcome of how the audience will react. But a scene where I couldn't help myself but just get this rush of emotions was when I saw Arvind Swamy meet his younger cousin on her wedding day. 22 years of being apart and so much that is unsaid or is unresolved. The bride is ecstatic to see him even attend the wedding. She wants to savor this moment. A queue of guests wait for their turn, but she will make sure this lasts just a little longer. The gifts are not merely jewelry items but symbols of the relationship and the time lost. Even onlookers seem to be overwhelmed, but for the two of them, this moment is to be cherished. And as Arvind Swamy sat on the floor to put the piles on his sister's feet and Govind Vasant's emotional score kicked in, I, much like the characters, was left teary-eyed. It's so brilliantly crafted where the build-up from pleasantries to just helplessly being emotional is so organically structured that I can't help but revisit this scene several times too. Aavesham. There are very few commercially successful movies that people can say emotionally hit a deep cut with them, and one of my most entertaining theatre experiences in recent years was the Malayalam movie Aavesham that often gets dunked upon as mere fluff, as just a fun entertainer versus having any form of depth or emotional resonance. But it's moments in films where I believe movies leave something special, where a film makes you have an undeniable emotional connection with the main character, and I think Aavesham was that for me when Ranga feels alone and betrayed. Fahad's performance is such a beautiful depiction of a lonely, influential man surrounded by yes men that when in a fit of rage he exclaims that no one loves him, having been betrayed by those who he considers friends. I couldn't help but be in awe of how the frame remains with Ranga even as he departs the frame. Those concerned with this emotional outbursts go chasing him, only for the one closest to him to remain in the frame in deep introspection and pain that after all all these years, he still remains invisible for his best friend. A relationship that I can easily create parallels with the duo of Asterix and Obelix or Robin Hood and Little John. But it's in these brief moments where you couldn't help but feel an emotional connection to these over-the-top, eccentric, but still lovable characters. Sapta Saagardaache Yellow Side B. Hemant Rao has to be one of the most talented directors working in the Kannada film industry, and I believe his doomed romance titled Sapta Saagardaache Yellow should be considered as an epic romance for the ages, something that will live on for years to come, for it is not only exceptionally performed but so technically proficient that I was genuinely spellbound with certain scenes. Side B is when the audience understood the depth of Manu and Priya's relationship and the heartbreaking ordeal of wondering about what could have been. This, especially conveyed through Manu's inner turmoil of being compelled to move on, is exceptionally depicted through his friend wanting to just get his physical urges out of the way. The scene in which he goes to a lodge with a prostitute named Surbhi is staged with Manu's conflicting feelings for Priya. The scene with exceptional staging changes the identity as the POV of the camera changes. Manu sees Priya, Surbhi sees Manu, and this carries on switching, highlighting how Manu is far from starting a new lease of life. He shuts everything off. He sleeps with her, but the longing for Priya remains. If he can soothe his soul with a singing voice, so be it. Staged beautifully with Surbhi singing, but Manu imagining Priya doing the same through her reflection. The use of mirrors and the staging of the scene is nothing short of a director being at his A game. Maidaan. A movie that I defend with every fiber of my body is the commercial flop titled Maidaan that not only extracted from Ajay Devgan probably his best performance in years, but also showcased a sport that I deeply love with authenticity like I had never seen in Hindi cinema before. The movie is slept on so much that whenever I bring it up, people are confused and exclaim, "Really?" Not for a sense of shock because it conflicts with their conclusion, but because most haven't seen it and assume it not to be worth one's time. I still remember sitting in an empty theatre for this memorable ride and being in absolute awe with the way Amit Sharma formulated the climax. A team with all the odds stacked against it fights tooth and nail to get over the line. The uphill battle works in cohesion with Saeed Abdul Rahim's illness, fighting for his life literally to stand on his 2 feet. The final whistle when India faces South Korea and ultimately wins is enhanced further by the beautiful song Jaane Do sung by A.R. Rahman. The relief, the pure elation, the team rushing towards their coach and celebrating in unison is forever etched in my memory as one of the most beautiful sequences and a real life triumph that does not get spoken about enough in this country. It's a shame that many people have not seen this film. Jersey. This is one of the Telugu movies that everyone unanimously loves and praises, and a sequence from the film is written in the history books as one of the most iconic scenes in Indian cinema, of Nani rushing towards the train station and screaming at the top of his lungs, a feeling of triumph when everyone doubted him in his life. All comes culminating beautifully in a scene with Anirudh's inspirational background score. And while I love this scene, I think there is something about the staging of another scene which I love just a little more, for how it is not only performed but how exceptionally it progresses to a moment. Arjun is frustrated that he merely played for a charity match, having no money to provide his son the jersey he promised him. The constant pestering and his own insecurity of not being able to provide for his son leads him to slap him due to the building frustration. The loving son is asked about the mark on his face by his mother. He looks at his father only to lie to his mother that he got wounded because of a cricket ball. Arjun's internal angst reaches a point of desperation. I cannot disappoint my son further, even if it means stealing from my own wife. The financial turmoil the couple is going through leads to an argument and Arjun getting slapped by his wife. It is these elements piling up together where a man can totally break and give up. What is there even to live for if you are a disappointment in the eyes of the people closest to you? It is after this scene that truly made me break. Arjun questions his son on why he lied to his mother, only to say that no one would believe him if he said that his father put a finger on him. Nani's expression is a question to all fathers. How can they even give up at this stage when your biggest cheerleader is your son? Nani internalizes such a heartfelt statement by moving away from his son. He is done being perceived as a loser, a scene beautifully enhanced even further by Anirudh's score. A beautiful scene that hits me even more than the point of victory and vindication Arjun feels when shortlisted for the team. By the way, please do me a favor and never watch the Hindi dubbed version of Jersey on YouTube for free because they changed the context and meaning of this scene completely. Retro. One of the most polarizing movies from last year was the Karthik Subbaraj directed film Retro, a movie that in my opinion had absolutely amazing ideas that just seemed to come in conflict with each other. I'm a sucker for long takes, be it the chaos captured in Lee Jo's Pillissery movies or the seamless nature with which Farah Khan choreographs songs. There is a charm to set pieces being designed with careful precision versus being butchered on the editing table, And one such sequence from Retro is Pari and Ruku's wedding that balances so many moving elements that I was awestruck on how seamless it was. Kannima, composed by Santosh Narayanan, is truly masterful, a celebration of the joyous day where Narayanan is absolutely vibing. Surya with his stoic expression being in sharp contrast to the absolute ball Pooja Hegde is having. This is not only a choreography captured well, but constantly reminds you that it is a part of a screenplay that moves the story forward, going from a dance performance, a meeting and a point of conflict with his own father, transitioning to a song again, and a full-blown action scene later. I was just blown away by the precision. Having watched the sequence multiple times again, there isn't even a point of lethargy or exhaustion that creeps in with the actors. The fact that so many departments work with such brilliant semblance with one another is truly praiseworthy. Super Boys of Malegaon. This is a sequence from a movie that wants to capture the feeling that has become a distant memory, and by that I mean the ability to surprise the audience. The magic of the movies is somewhat dampened in the current environment of the saturation of information available. But when movies were one of the only sources of entertainment, with glimpses, teasers, or even songs barely being released prior to movies landing in theaters, there were still moments of wonder, of awe, of what was being seen on the big screen. I hear stories of people being scared that a train was charging towards them when they were watching a movie, or on how breaking the fourth wall genuinely confused audiences on how the characters could even see them. This was the beauty of wonder in the world still existing, where the magic of movies still seemed like a magic trick, where the secrets were still inaccessible. The work and effort of the passionate group of friends making a film for their dying friend as a powerful superhero lead seemed comical, especially the comedy of errors that take place while making the movie a reality. However, the moment when Shashank Arora sees himself flying in the frame, bewildered that this was the exact same sequence where he was being tied upside down in front of a green screen, overwhelmed by how beautiful it looked on screen, this shock permeates through the room, where everyone's jaw just organically drops. Blown away by this magic, Shashank teary-eyed looks at Adarsh only to salute his director. A scene that I believe deeply hit anyone who still seeks for those fleeting, beautiful moments when they go to the theatre. RRR. There is a lot of revisionism that is associated with this movie just because of the sheer spectacle and global phenomena that it became, but I still remember going for the preview screening of this movie and being blown away at the sheer audacity of SS Rajamouli. There can be several moments that you can expect me to talk about. Moments where I've been completely left speechless. Possibly the choreography of Natu Natu. The most expected sequence you would assume I would speak about is the title card of the Hands meeting, or Junior NTR's entry at the party with his gang of the Animal Kingdom. But I think is an exceptional combination of something so wild on paper actually being believable and effective that I was left at a loss for words was Ram Charan's introduction sequence that not only provided us context about the physical ability of the character but established intent too, which is exceptionally carved out in the screenplay ahead. But what's even more exceptional is the technical prowess of the sequence that makes a one versus a mob of hundreds and thousands of extras extremely convincing. There is a relentless tonality of this scene that leaves you overwhelmed and breathless, an extension of Abhimanyu fearlessly facing hundreds and thousands of threats in the Kurukshetra war. This laser-sharp focus of the officer having eyes only on one target gave me goosebumps and so beautifully set the tone of the film. The combination of the scene staging, the physical determination of the character to not let go, and the adamant nature of the director to pull it off, irrespective of how audacious it may seem, really makes it at the top of my life as something extremely special I witnessed in theatres. You know what's even more special? As I previously said, it was not only to present the leading man's ability physically, but beautifully made the scene have meaning in the screenplay in actually having substance and purpose. Now that's why SS Rajamouli is considered to be one of the best. Tamasha. Whenever I do meet subscribers in person, especially the OG ones who have been on this journey since the early days, they tell me that the video that made them actually subscribe to the channel was the one that I made on Tamasha, a movie that deeply impacted me philosophically on how I wanted to live life. The beauty of an Imtiaz Ali story, in my opinion, is that it does seem like an extension of your personal diary on the big screen, especially if you are living anything close to the emotional turmoil his protagonists are experiencing. Tamasha was one such film, Ved being torn between purpose and pragmatism, and there are several scenes that deeply impacted me, be it Ranbir processing rejection, the iconic back and forth between him and Tara before Agar Tum Saath Ho plays in the background, but I still think nothing has been more cinematically magical than when Piyush Mishra, now an old and slightly delirious old man, reprimands Ved, asking on how his story moves forward. Ved just needs clarity, any signs of what needs to be done. Ranbir is frustrated that he is getting classics of Heer Ranjha being narrated. He needs answers for his story. This is where the penny drops. अपनी कहानी मुझसे पूछता है. And I can't tell you as a confused 20-year-old how much that moment impacted me, how much I empathize with Ved, understanding that he is the master of his fate when he helplessly exclaims, मैं क्या चाहता हूँ? It's something that everyone has once experienced or has chosen to live life like forever, not knowing what they want from the bottom of their heart. The sheer shock and wonder in his eyes as he stares at Piyush Mishra only to run like the innocent child he once was as Safarnama plays in the background is forever etched in my memory. And that was a video, guys. Write down in the comments below when there were moments in theatres where you genuinely felt this is cinema. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.